They have to battle the elements. They have to battle starvation. They even have to battle pirates. Some were school teachers, some were political leaders, some were just swept up haphazardly.
I knew nothing about Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh could have been a sushi roll for all I knew. Their story starts with the war. Basically, South Vietnam was fighting North Vietnam. These guys wanted to remain democratic, while these guys wanted to implement a Soviet-style communism, though they called themselves nationalists. The South fought to defend themselves against the invasion from the North. In the end, the South lost the war, and a bunch of communists took over the country, making everyone's life miserable, so 1 million or more just boated the hell out of there with no idea of where they were going. Two-sentence description, 2 sentences at most, of the Vietnam War.
Describing the Vietnam War in 2 sentences is almost impossible, but here's a try. In the context of the global contention between the communist world and the free world, Vietnam became a set-piece battle in which the United States tried to help the South Vietnamese maintain their freedom and independence under attack from North Vietnam, which was backed by the communist world.
Later in Hanoi, the Soviet leader pledges whatever support is necessary to crush South Vietnam, and then he seals his pledge with a bear hug.
Neither of the major contending parties had the wherewithal to conduct a military operation by themselves. They could provide the manpower. When it came to military equipment, each was dependent on outside parties.
Let me assure you of our continued assistance in the development of your capabilities to maintain your freedom and to defeat those who wish to destroy that freedom.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Congress, by a 99.6% vote, authorized the president to use armed force in Indochina. The American people overwhelmingly supported going to war in Vietnam. LBJ's approval rating between July and August of 1964 shot up 30 full points, a 58% increase, which the Gallup organization attributed to his firm stand finally against the communists in Vietnam.
This nation will keep its commitments from South Vietnam to West Berlin.
A lot of people are wondering about this. How about the draft situation?
Oh, you mean the army?
Yeah, I mean...
They cleaning out my cell to take me to jail because it's better that fed than in Vietnam jail.
After the Tet Offensive, being anti-war became very popular. Walter Cronkite finally said, we can't win this war, we need to negotiate the best deal we can.
And then the administration changed. Lyndon Johnson was out. Richard Nixon was in. Just as we had built up over the early years, we're drawing down. Mr. Nixon decides our role should be now terminated. We bring out increment after increment. The Paris Accords are signed, and theoretically we have a peace. Peace lasted only hours, if that. The North Vietnamese immediately violated them, as we had pretty well expected.
Congress passed a law making it illegal for the president to spend money on combat operations anywhere in Indochina. Since the Chinese and Soviets were pouring in equipment to the north, that was a death knell for South Vietnam.
There are credible reports of bandages having to be washed and reused because they're running out of medical supplies, of soldiers spending their own money in the black market to buy a hand grenade because they need more than they're getting, of artillery pieces that used to fire hundreds of rounds a day being rationed to 4 rounds because that's all they had. The reason South Vietnam lost the war was because the Congress of the United States, in its wisdom, decided to abandon them.
Between the years of 1975 and 1995, more than 2 million Vietnamese would decide to make the boat journey in hopes of finding freedom in a new country.
The Vietnamese communists were a particularly authoritarian group.
The Geneva Agreements leave the victorious Ho Chi Minh in control of North Vietnam.
There are a variety of reasons why people become communist. The communists say that it is unfair that some people make more money than others and so forth, and we're going to fix that. But in almost every case, the way that's done is through highly authoritarian and totalitarian measures. They crush people.
But Uncle Ho's work is not finished. His job is not done. For half of Vietnam is not communist.
They put people in prison for having independent political ideas, for publishing poems or anything else that's offensive to those in command. They have to have total control. In Vietnam, they were absolutely brilliant political warriors. They understood struggle.
The enemy looks upon the people's dissatisfactions as a powerful weapon to be used to his advantage, for he knows he needs their support to have any hope of victory. Where there is hunger, where there is disease, where there is misery, the communist insurgents attempt to persuade the people that their troubles are the result of government evil and would be eliminated with a communist victory.
How we fight that kind of a problem, which is going to be with us all through this decade, seems to me to be one of the great problems now before the United States.
I think the goal was initially equality, and I think if you go back to when Karl Marx was writing, there was a lot of inequality of opportunity.
It is exactly in places and circumstances such as this that communism gains its foothold.
Many people in South Vietnam had a sense of what was coming.
So inevitably,
we're going to lose because we don't have enough weapons to fight. We support the North Vietnam a lot. Dương Văn Minh, he's the one called all kind of soldier.
Once we decided no longer to support them, it was over. What that precipitates is a major exodus of Vietnamese, South Vietnamese from their country because they desperately do not want to live under communist domination. Many other Vietnamese made their way by very risky means, especially by water. Hundreds of thousands of people leaving, often in not seaworthy craft. They have to battle the elements. They have to battle starvation. We refer to that exodus as the boat people.
Left and right, to the point that we had the biggest exodus in the history of Vietnam. You had people crowding onto small, unseaworthy vessels and just heading out to sea, hoping they might possibly drift ashore in some land that would protect them.
If I knew I have to go through all of that, I would never escape because it's so scary.
This is Aaron. He's kind of like the Ryan Seacrest of the Vietnamese American community, reporting nightly on Vietface TV. He fled the country by boat using professional smugglers.
The organizer, I never know them because they need to keep it secret. They don't want to be arrested, captured by the government.
My kids, they don't know where we go. We just said we go vacation.
It's about $2,000. It's a fortune. It's like 1980. But I used to be a singer before, so I had, I sang, I had money.
Aaron probably could have stayed in Vietnam and been just fine. But instead he risked his fame and entertainment career for the chance to live free. Having escaped Vietnam in 1991, Aaron is one of the last people to be granted refugee status to the U.S.
One night I was, performing, and a guy come to me and then tell me that, okay, we're going to escape the next day, tomorrow. And I was like, what? Tomorrow? Wait at the coffee shop, right in front of Binh Thanh Market. Be there by noontime. If it's not there, we're going to skip you. So I was there like 11 in the morning, just drinking coffee. And all of a sudden, the guy, stopped right in front of us. And then he like, you get in the car. And I was like, me? I didn't know this guy, and I was like, me? And he go like, come on. I just jumped into the car. In Vietnam, if they arrested you, they're going to put you in jail. And I already have a career. I was a singer, and people know me. And, if I got arrested, like the whole career is going to be gone. They throw us to the beach by the river, and then we jump onto a small boat. All of a sudden, I heard the engine go on and the boat moving, so we knew that, they took off. Lots of people in there, and it's just like hard to breathe.
We have no drinking water for 5 days and 8 days without food.
I remember it's like a storm, and the wave is really big, and after that, I just pass out.
At that time, my daughter, kind of unconscious, and my son is very weak. I can feel like, my leg, I'm starting to get numb because you don't eat that for that long.
So the journey keep going on like that for the whole month at sea. And we don't know where we go. When we get to Singapore Navy ship, just stop it and say that, you know what, the refugee camp is closed. We can't accept you. And then we reach Malaysia, the same thing, telling us like, no, go back to your country, and nobody want to go back. And we go on until the engine broke down.
Here we are on the ocean, without anybody want to rescue us, without no food, no drinking water. So only way we go is go heaven or hell, either way,
Crazy, huh?
Not everyone chose to escape by boat. Chuk Ho is a Vietnamese musician and composer living in California who took a different route.
When the communists took over the country, I was 11 years old. I love music. I want to play music. I want to study music. But, you cannot play Beatles, you cannot play Western music. You cannot play South Vietnamese music. You cannot listen to any music that they don't want you to listen. They only want to listen to their propaganda music.
Chuk Ho was one of the 100,000 people that walked on foot out of Vietnam by crossing through Cambodia's killing fields. Less than half made it out alive.
When my feet touched the sand, suddenly my tear came out because I thank to God that we made it. We survived. I still remember that I was so exhausted because during our journey for the last few days, if we don't have any drinking water, my daughter got some eggs from vendor over here, and she called me and said, Mom, eggs, eat some.
As hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese were pouring out of Vietnam, neighboring countries set up refugee camps along their shores and on isolated islands.
In the Pulau Bidong refugee camp. I live in here around about 1 year.
After being separated from his family at sea, Huang arrived to the Bidong refugee camp in 1981. At that time, he had no news of his family or whether they ever made it to shore.
God, I remember everything, when I just entered the camp, and when I saw the road and all the buildings still come in and still got the feel of it. At first, when you come here, you feel you see the landscape, the scenery, you like it, but then it's again, for a number of years. So when you feel like you're in prison because you can't go anywhere.
Boat people had escaped, but now they're in a country without a permit, so they were forced to live on small plots of land with little to no supplies. Bidong Island was designed to receive 4,500 refugees, but by 1978, there were many more.
Last August, Pulau Bidong was uninhabited. Now, there are more than 23,000 boat people living here, living in a makeshift shanty town, a collection of shacks and tents piled on top of each other.
By June 1979, more than 40,000 inhabited the less than 1 square mile area. The escapes didn't stop. Boats of Vietnamese refugees continued showing up on neighboring shores throughout the 80s and 90s. In these camps, they found safety, but they had no guarantee that they would be given citizenship into another country.
Starting in 1992, I believe, the UNHCR, they starting to form a new office. It's called Repatriations Office, to put people back to Vietnam. If people fail the screening process first time, and then they get a chance to do the appeal. If they fail again on the appeal, they gotta go back. Some people willing to set themselves on fire just to let them know that, no, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here, and I want to go, and I want freedom.
So you wanted to leave to seek freedom?
Yes,
freedom
for my family, for my children.
In which country?
In the States.
Why the United States?
It's the country of freedom. I think that the Americans will make a choice and receive them all. Those who haven't been accepted by other countries.
The United States will take all?
Yes.
You really believe that?
I hope.
Refugees were spread out all over the globe. The U.S. accepted 1.8 million Vietnamese over the next 3 decades. Another 1 million were spread out among 98 other countries around the world, and roughly 100,000 were eventually forced to return to Vietnam.
All the people in the anti-war movement who said that this was a liberation movement and a movement for peace and justice, when those terrible things happened, very few had anything to say about that.
The communists killed more people in Indochina in the 3 years following, quote, liberation than died in combat the previous 14 years.
Những cuốn sách của tôi hiện giờ ấy, bằng tiếng Việt thì đã bị cấm ở Việt Nam từ khi tôi ra tù năm 91.
Dun Tu Hung lived in North Vietnam and fought as a soldier for the North Vietnamese Army. While invading the South, she recognized that they were far from in need of liberation and began writing to expose the propaganda of the North. She was imprisoned for her writing. Luckily, a French journalist became a fan of her work and was able to negotiate for her release. Today, she lives as a refugee in Paris.
Tôi lầm lỗi là vì ở cái chế độ cộng sản người ta sống như con vật. Cuộc sống của tôi là phải tranh đấu với lại cái miếng ăn và cái đồ chất đốt tôi chả gửi viện trợ. Bị nhà nước quản chế từ miếng ăn miếng uống, bóp nát tinh thần.
If you don't live in a communist country, you don't know yet. You don't have feeling yet. They just took over the South. See, at night time, people go to sleep, but you're hungry. Your kid hungry, they cry, and you don't have any food for them. How you feeling? You have your house, you have your own property. They come, they took everything, and say that is from government, not your. How you feeling? They took over it, but they tell you, hey, I let you do it, your farm and everything, but you pay tax, and more than you have it. How you feeling? And you cannot talk anything back to them. Because they have a gun in hand. They can shoot anytime they want.
The debate went on. The demonstrations went on. You stupid idiots, you know. What's your name, sir? Never mind my name. I'm from Hungary. I'm a freedom fighter. I'm also a communist. The bastards! For idiotic anti-communists. You stupid idiots. I would shoot you all. I bet the Russians will shoot you if they come. And half of you have no jobs. You're hanging around the Tudor Street, you demonstrators. You should be out working or do something in the hospitals. It's a disgrace what you are doing here against your own country. I'm ashamed for America, but I'm not an American. I'm a Hungarian. The many people who died, people died since time immemorial. There's nothing new, people is dying for freedom. People have to die for their children, for their future. To a free America like you here now. You couldn't walk around in Peking because you are misled. Deep inside, I'm sure you are very, very decent people. Would you want the best for humanity? But humanity is finished in the communist countries. You should be not shot, that's too good for you. Do you know what it means having communists go to Hungary, to Czechoslovakia, go to East? Don't laugh so idiotically on the back. Don't run away now. You should listen to that. Stupid idiots. The people here is fighting for freedom. Every coolie here is a hero. Every coolie, every Vietnamese should get a medal. Every American who works so fights here is a hero. You will realize when it's too late.
While visiting the memorial, Tang spotted a group of exchange students from Vietnam passing by.
Rồi, cố gắng học giỏi nha. Các anh chị có biết cái này là cái gì không? Để tôi giải thích cho. Đây là cái bức tượng tượng trưng cho 100 triệu nạn nhân của chế độ Cộng sản đã bị giết chết. Ở Nga Xô đó, họ giết tất cả là 50 triệu người. Ở Trung Quốc họ giết 30 triệu người. Riêng cái cuộc chiến tranh Việt Nam mình đó, hai bên như là chế độ tương tàn với nhau đó, chết tất cả 7 triệu người. Nhân dân cả hai bên, bên miền Bắc, bên miền Nam, chết 7 triệu người tất cả. Vừa quân đội hai bên, vừa đồng bào. Mỹ nó chết 58.000. Còn bên riêng
tức là cứ một người Mỹ giết khoảng 100 người, hơn 100.
Không, cái đó không cần nói tới, nhưng mà nói về đây là cái bức tượng mà để tượng trưng cho cái chế độ của Cộng sản từ Nga Xô đó là chết 50 triệu người. Bên Trung Quốc thôi cố gắng đi học hành cho nó giỏi, về giúp đất nước. Ok. Rồi. So under the communist regime in North Vietnam, they hide all information. So the reason why the student, when I mentioned with them about victim of communism, they didn't understand. So we have to explain to them.
I believe that some good comes out of everything. It's bad, difficult, sometimes fraught with sorrow and anguish. The best thing that's happened is to the United States of America. To have the presence of so many brave and wonderful men and women who are now citizens of this country, who have contributed to our economy, who have contributed to our nation in a broad variety of ways.
Senator McCain made this statement in 1992, before 9/11, and before Dung An had begun engineering her latest project. An was brought to the U.S. as a refugee in 1975 when she was just 15. By 1998, An was working at the Pentagon as an engineer. She saw a need for a bomb that wouldn't detonate on its first impact, rather would land once and then go on to detonate, creating a sort of sideways explosion. It was to be a 5-year project. After 9/11, with Al-Qaeda retreating into caves, Bush called in An to ask how soon she could have her bunker buster bomb ready. Instead of taking 5 years, An led a team of 100 people to complete the bomb in 67 days. The bunker buster bomb was critical in our efforts in Afghanistan. Today, among the Vietnamese community, An is known as the Bomb Lady.
Please join me in honoring the winner of the 2007 National Security Medal, An Duong.
This land is a paradise, not because of its beauty or its richness, but because of its people. The compassionate, generous Americans who took my family and me in 32 years ago and healed our soul, who restored my faith in humanity, and who inspired me to public service. There's a special group of people that I'm especially indebted to, and I would like to dedicate this medal to them. They are the 58,000 Americans whose name are on the wall of the Vietnam War Memorial, and the 260,000 South Vietnamese soldiers who died in that war in order for people like me to earn a second chance to freedom. May God bless all of those who are willing to die for freedom, especially those who are willing to die for the freedom of others. Thank you.
So I wanted to pay back. I wanted to come up with the best means, the best weapons for American soldiers today, since they are putting their lives on the line to protect me, to protect my family. So I wanted to help them come home intact to their family.
You know, assimilation was fairly smooth compared to what other folks have to go through, you know, going to Malaysia, Philippines, and other places. And then I think my dad was visionary in deciding that hey, it's going to be hard, but you are going to go to school.
Of course, I had a lot of difficulty back then since I hardly spoke any English. But when your survivability depends on it, you learn fast.
The first challenge is that when I came here is that I had to take care of my son. I worked 2 jobs, odd jobs. I cleaned the floor and everything. I told my son that you have to forget our family's history because you have to work hard.
One of the things that they found to do is join the American Armed Forces. Quite a few young Vietnamese have gone to West Point, for example, and become things like helicopter pilots and infantry officers and so on.
The Vietnamese-American military banquet is about to commence.
I'm a first-generation Vietnamese-American, Captain James Van Tok. I spent 25 months in Iraq for my community, my family, and our country.
United States Air Force. The United States Marine Corps. To the United States Navy.
Army. My name is Victor J. Hugo Jr. I'm a Major General, United States Army, retired. I worked with Vietnamese in Vietnam several times, and I have a great admiration and respect. It's a story of great courage, perseverance, and love of freedom.
Today, over 20,000 Vietnamese Americans have served in the United States military.
And just recently, the first such young Vietnamese serving in the United States Army has become a brigadier general.
It has also demonstrated immense courage from his early youth in Saigon and the escape, the courage to assimilate into a foreign country not speaking a lick of English, and the courage to be a soldier for so many decades. Viet Long epitomizes all that we want in a commissioned officer, in a soldier, and in a general officer of the United States Army.
Must be gratifying to all Vietnamese Americans to see him elevated like that.
One of the things that I think makes America special is that it's made up predominantly of people who came here because they had the courage and the dream. They were willing to cross the seas, not knowing what was going to be waiting for them, and it was sort of a self-selecting group. It's an opportunity that does not appeal to the weak.
It certainly was a part of my life that I know I would never, ever forget. And it actually served me well in the rest of my life and career, because any time that I face a difficult situation, I would give myself a pep talk. I would remind myself that, hey, if you could survive that, you will survive anything else.
Everything now, to me, you think that be a difficult challenge and nothing like that. So everything will be very, very easy for me after all that. Yeah.
After I've been through all of that in my life, when I get to the United States, I was reborn. You will see me laughing all the time, right? You know, I smile, whatever it is, because I've been through the worst thing in my life. So I'm a happy guy now.
So that's why every time when I do something, and I try the best I can.
One of the most profound guidance that my dad had given us before he passed away was, you know, to never forget what's been done for you, to be able to repay our great nation. In addition to that, to maintain your Vietnamese heritage and not forget where you came from as well. You know, as far as Vietnamese Americans, we're all Americans, right? Some people don't like the, you know, the hyphenation and all that stuff, but sometimes that's identity because, you know, most of those folks, they're kind of split in between two cultures, so they can't really identify themselves as 100% American, you know? So I think we're doing our duty.
Grandmaster Trần Huy Phong, he the one and sent me the letter, ordered me to come back to practice martial art. He rescued my life.
He's told me that he practiced martial arts over Vietnam to calm down, be more focused, and help him feel better about himself and to move on.
Look like I lost one son and one girl. But now God sent back to me another son and another daughter. They are so beautiful and I'm so proud with them. Martial art bring me back up, stand up to do something. Give me a chance, give me the way to do something for American country. This is my country too. I want to build it, the next generation become good people.
He's taught me so much, not only martial arts, but he's given me life lessons, like have an open mind, open heart, and open arms.
And after I practice about a year, I come back normal, and I don't feel anything, depressed no more. And I think, well, I can help myself. Why I don't do something for another people? So I make the Viet Tai Chi.
And I wouldn't have made it if I hadn't had this class. It has truly helped us. It just keeps us going.
You had to go through what you went through, and all of God carried you through all of that in order to get here and teach people how to improve themselves, things to do. I praise God for you. I thank you.
While you cannot discount the heartbreak, their story is a very positive one, I think.